68 years since Air India had been lost to nationalization, but Tatas today are the proud owners of Air India yet again. According to the Finance Ministry sources, the Tata Group has won the bid for Air India. The other bidder was Ajay Singh, who is the promoter of the SpiceJet. Now, while the bid amount is not known yet, sources say the reserve price was set at 15 to 20,000 crore rupees, and the Tata price reportedly exceeded this amount by 3,000 crore rupees. The government is selling its entire stake in the airline as well as its stake in the subsidiary Air India Express. 50% of the stake in service company Air India, SATS, is also being sold off. Air India currently has a debt of 43,000 crore rupees. The government is looking at completing the sell-off by December this year. Aishwarya Paliwal is now live with me from Dubai. We'll also be soon joined by our colleagues from the Business Today television as well. Aishwarya, first to you, because this is the biggest news, and from what we know, it had been going on for months. Precisely tell us what decision has been taken finally. What will be the stake? Will it be a complete takeover, or will it have a majority stake of the Tata Sons?
Well, Pooja, let me tell you, it will be a complete takeover. It will be Tata Sons who will be running the airlines from what we are understanding at the moment from early next year. And let me tell you how the entire saga started. It was JRD Tata who, Pooja, in fact, was the first licensed pilot of the country. And he was the one who founded Air India, which then in 1932 was named Tata Airlines. And such was his love for aviation, such was his love for flying, that he was the one, the founder himself, who flew the first flight of then Tata Airlines. And then we did see how the airlines changed hands, and then the government started running it after 1947. The Tatas, however, for the past 1 decade almost, have been trying to get back in the aviation game. They do have Vistara. But from what we understand, what they really wanted, and what in fact JRD also wanted, was to get back Air India. And what he did, what JRD Tata started, is now being completed by Ratan Tata. And it's a big feat, because the one who founded the airlines will now be running it. And it will be very good news for the employees also, Pooja, because we have been seeing over the past few years how the union, the Air India union, has been going on various strikes. There have been curbs on salaries. There have been no increments. All those things will now be taken care of.
Definitely,
and from what we understand,
a lot of concerns
at the moment, Pooja.
Yes. All right, so that's Aishwarya Paliwal. Aishwarya, I would like you to finish your point, because you were telling us about what the sources are telling you. Do finish that point about what you were telling us about the final probability here in the stake that will now be given to Tata Sons. All right, we'll also now let's take a look at the key takeaways about what precisely does this mean as Air India wins the bid Tata Sons has won the bid for Air India. Remember, this is going to be the end of turbulent times. Remember, for the longest time in Air India, there had been problems with regard to increments, promotions, even basic salaries. So Tatas will be getting, for now, an entire stake of the Air India Express, which is a subsidiary form of that. But importantly, the government's disinvestment plan will be now on track. They had been planning it, but there were too many deliberations and calculations on. Now it seems to have finally been won by the Tatas. Air India sale to hugely boost economy, at least that's the hope, because if your national carrier, so to say, gets back on track, it is bound to bring in the money and revive the economy. Government's big message will be with regard to disinvestment, naysayers, because many said this is not the best decision for now that should be taken by the government. Why can the government not take care of its national carrier? Why should it be given to a private entity? But what we know so far is that it's going back to the Tatas, and maybe likely a full circle for the Tatas group. I want to go across now to Abha Bakaya from our Business Today TV to help us precisely understand the business aspect of it. Abha continues to be with us, so does Aishwarya Paliwal. Abha, you tell us, because you understand this prospect the best, about what does this really mean and how big could this be as a decision finally?
You know, it's huge, Pooja. Not only is it a significant for the aviation space as well as for the government's divestment agenda, for the Tatas who've been wanting to make a play in aviation since the time they gave up this airline almost 70 years ago. Let's give you a sense of how big the operations are that they're taking over and the kind of challenge that also lies ahead of them. Remember, this approval for the bid has actually come in ahead of time. We were looking at mid-October. It's already in. Gives you a sense of how quick the government's reacting this time. They had changed all the permutations and combinations also for the bid, allowing people to bid on enterprise value. And apparently the Tata bid has come in about 5,000 crores more than that, or more than SpiceJet, and 3,000 crores more than the reserve price. Apparently, we're still waiting for the final confirmation. They're going to inherit a brand, a global brand, 2,000 engineers, 1,500 pilots. Remember, Ratan Tata himself is also a qualified pilot. They'll have a membership of Star Alliance. Air India has not been able to capitalize, of course, from being part of some of these partnerships. Tatas, on the other hand, have a partnership with Singapore Airlines for Vistara. They have a stake in AirAsia. They've already been experimenting in the aviation space, both in full service as well as low cost. And now with this, they're going to go whole hog as a giant play in the aviation sector.
Well, thank you so much, Abha Bakaya, putting it in perspective and actually explaining what this means, how they could have possibly achieved this deal that has finally gone to the Tata Sons, which many were expecting as well. I want you to now listen into some aviation experts. Could this really mean that our economy, the national carrier as well, could actually be revived yet again? Listen in.
I'm very happy, actually, first, that it's the Tatas who are getting it. The Tatas, as you yourself said, it's come a full circle. I have a long association with it. And amongst the candidates who had bid, I would, given Tata's experience now with Vistara, they were well positioned to be considered, and having made the best bid for the government higher than the reserve price and the other serious contender, I'm glad it is the Tatas who got that.
I think it's completely in the fitness of things that Air India is back with the Tatas, the original parent company. So, from a sort of perspective of true justice, this is wonderful news. Second, coming in, without getting into some of the more sort of financials and the logistics. Just from a purely, sort of an ideological situation, in terms of the culture of Air India, all of that one would expect to be more or less retained, because it was the Maharaja, and all of that. So from a branding perspective and from a natural justice perspective, it's a great thing that's happened.
So let's look at the numbers now. What was Maharaja's business in the past few years? I'll take you with the statistics now. Take a look, because remember, passengers for the Air India in 2020 itself were about 63 million. This is, of course, remember, with a break that happened about the COVID pandemic. 100 domestic routes for the Air India as a carrier. What about the international routes? 70 plus. All of this had to be taken care of. Aircraft fleet at about 172 in number. What about the staff members? What about the employees? 87 are the own aircraft for Air India, which means 9,426 permanent employees. That's just the permanent employee number. 4,201 are contractual employees in the Air India. 1,600 are specifically the pilots. That is, of course, apart from the crew of the aircraft. 1,600 plus are the staff members. That involves both the ground staff and with other responsibilities. This about 40,000 crore rupees, however, was the debt with Air India. Employees were not getting their salaries, increments, promotions in time, and a lot of other financial issues that did concern the Air India, which was with the government till now and now will be with the Tata Sons and group of companies.